Hey there, positive people. You got Dana here, and this is a video that I've been meaning to do for a while. And basically, it's just my thoughts on being black in Seattle. I've been here a year and a month, and I have to say that this has been the most trying, rewarding, and challenging time of my life. I don't see it getting any less challenging anytime soon, honestly. Um, I don't have any like real regrets as far as like moving here or anything like that. Like, I really want to be clear on that. That my feelings about Seattle are not rooted in regret, because my life in Atlanta just it had a set of problems that were just gonna get progressively worse. So yeah. Anyway, being black here, I don't know. I feel I don't know. I'm trying to like word this right without sounding like a little pretentious, but I'm way more aware of my blackness here, clearly, because I'm in a minority. Parts of my identity are sometimes amplified because of the fact that sometimes I'm having to defend my blackness almost. I've had people like second guess the way that I view things based on my background. And I've talked in past videos about overt racism that I've come across, whether it be blatant or otherwise. There is definitely a culture here of self-entitlement because of status, and that can sometimes spill into race relations. I've literally had to tell grown women and older people, like, you can't talk to me like that. I'm not sure who you deal with in your day-to-day. If you talk to the bellhops or whomever at these like hoity-toity places that you go to, great for them. And I understand that they put up with your shit because you tip them, but you can't talk to me like that. And this is in my day-to-day, whether it be going to the post office, whether it be at my job, whether it be out and about. Obviously the hair touching shit is just a totally different subgenre in and of itself. My hair is a conversation piece. I know it's a conversation piece. I live for my hair. I live for like what my hair does for people. And obviously I like the fact that it's an attention grabber, but that doesn't give anybody the right to touch me. And now I have gotten into the habit of yanking people's hair when they try to yank at mine. And what's funny is people get shocked when you do it back to them. So for anybody who deals with people reaching out to touch their hair, just grab a chunk back. And I don't give a shit if it's a 90-year-old woman. I have yanked a 90-year-old woman's head, just like you just did it to me. I want to see what your thin shit feels like too, So I don't want this video to be angry, so let me lower my tone a bit. I am isolated. I don't have any friends, really. The one friend that I do have, oddly enough, is like a guy that I went to high school with, and he moved out here, and we live in two very... It's funny because I only live 20 minutes away from him, but because traffic is so bad, it's like a 40-minute drive to get to him sometimes, depending on the traffic. So I don't see him as much, and obviously now that Marley's back in town and in school full time, I don't have the time to socialize like that. I have yet to meet like-minded women, which sucks, and meeting black women is like a big thing on my to-do list, because it's just like I want to be able to have these sorts of discussions with somebody of the same mind. It irks my soul sometimes when I'm talking to certain people about what's going on in my life, and because they don't have a proper frame of reference, the conversation really goes nowhere. So either I get the, oh man, you're such a trooper, you're such a fighter, I could never do what you're doing. Or I get the whole, well, I've got my different set of like first world struggles. And it's just like, okay, but I'm coming from the point of view of being a single black mother in a predominantly white city, And I'm trying to like navigate in a place that is not home for me, and probably will never be home, because the little idiosyncrasies, like just even cuisine, I noticed are just gone, having home cooking, like there's some things that we really take for granted in home, you know? And I say all of that to say that eventually Seattle will feel like home, but being black is making it definitely a lot harder for it to feel like home, because every time I go out to a bar, you know, there's always some dumbass who can't just keep it casual and have a conversation with me without saying, well, you know, I have tons of black friends, or I love black people. And it's just like, I'm not going to be your token, and you don't have to talk to me like that. Like when I introduce myself to people, I don't say, hi, I'm Black Dana. It's like, I'm Dana. If it comes up in conversation that I'm black, it's like, okay, good on you, Captain Obvious, I am black, but there's so many other things that we could talk about. It's sad because I never felt like I was a person that was obsessed with race or anything like that. But when it's shoved in your face, you know, day after day after day, whether it be, you know, me first moving to where I stay now and people assuming I was fucking my roommate, you know, or that it was some sort of, you know, sex for rent sort of situation, to having people say to me, oh wow, your commute must be far to work. And it's like, no, actually I live here in the city. I live a mile away from my job. I actually live the closest to my job than anyone else, oddly enough. So it's funny that people would assume that I live on the outskirts of the city. It's funny to me that, you know, people would assume, you know, that I'm, like I said, fucking my roommate for my rent. It's funny to me that people would assume that, you know, I come from money somehow, or someone left me an inheritance and that's how I could afford to stay where I stay, which, mind you, ain't the nicest place in Seattle. It's definitely not the worst, but by far not the nicest place you could stay. So, yeah, a lot of that just makes it hard. And all I can cling on to is my blackness, and not allow for anyone to make me assimilate, which is probably a big reason why I wear my hair the way that I do, and carry myself the way that I do, and dress the way that I do, and talk the way that I do. Because if I wanted to keep a job interview, I could, but I am from the South, and I shouldn't have to disguise that. And I don't have the strongest Southern accent, but if I want to call a buggy a damn buggy, I don't have to call it a shopping cart. Like, just things like that, subtle idiosyncrasies like that. Like, if I don't want to assimilate in that way, I don't have to, you know. I'm tolerant of everyone, and I get the whole Washington-esque passive aggressiveness of certain things, and of leading your life a certain way, of keeping yourself low-key and not making too much noise. But if I don't want to live like that, I don't have to, thankfully. So yeah, excuse me shaking. The way that I was holding the camera made me shake. But that's pretty much it. I don't want this video to be longer than 10 minutes, but just understand that I moved here to better my daughter's life and give her the best education that my money could buy. And, you know, private school was out of the question. This was like my next best option. She's happy, and I feel like the education she's receiving here is way better than home. She's surrounded by people of every color, of every race and nationality. She's exposed to cultures that she never would have been exposed to back home. And also, she's being put on her toes. And eventually there'll come a point where she realizes, hey, I'm an anomaly. You know, even though I live in a place that is racially mixed, I am in the minority. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, yeah. Those are some of my thoughts on being black in Seattle. I'll probably elaborate on this more because I feel like a lot of my remarks were probably tinged in a little bit of anger and frustration because of how I've been treated. But all I can really do is try and stay as positive and optimistic as possible, which can be really hard to do some days. So, thanks for watching. Till later. Peace, positive people.